Today we're going to be building in Brightchester, and I really wanted to make a college town, so I chose the library lot. And what I want to do is make a library in this corner. Then I wanted to make a pub with a little pergola in that corner, a dining hall, two houses, and a park. So let's get started. So the first thing I did was added this river down the center of everything, and I added two bridges that were about the same size on each side. I wanted to, I don't know, add something a little more fun, so I think a water feature is kind of nice. Then in the top left corner, I made this little hill, and that's where I wanted to add the library. I end up messing around with the shape a little bit once I get to it. But here I wanted to do the pub with the little pergola. Originally I was going to put another building in the corner and I decided not to, but I cut that part out. Here I built the two houses for the students to live in. And I wanted to sort of match the buildings around Brightchester. I didn't exactly do that with the color, but... So here I'm trying to find a pergola, and I didn't like any, so I decided to make one with that fence trick that I'm sure you've seen so many times, where you just get that thin, short fence and, add them in stripes, and then delete the tiles in between. And I ended up changing these as well, the pillars. Here, I jump around a lot in this video also. For the library, I wanted to add some steps going up to it, since there was on kind of a hill over there. And then I decided to go make the path, and I decided to use the stone from Enchanted by Nature. So I'm just kind of mapping out how I want things to go, and I do add to this a little bit more. I wanted to flare the roof out a little bit to give it more of a whimsical look, and I copied this over for the dining hall as well. I did make a second floor in the dining hall, but I just deleted the floor, so it's just like super high ceilings. I wanted to do this different little roof piece for the two houses. I believe I saw one of the houses in the back that looked similar. It didn't have the outer part, the octagon, but it was close enough, and I wanted to add something different to the houses instead of just making them squares. I ended up changing the walkways, the path, to like this lighter green color, and I had to adjust a little bit on the bridges to get them to be completely straight. And then I decided to go back to the pub, and I went with, I believe this is also from Enchanted by Nature, it's like that orangey roof tone, and I also used the Castle Estate kit for the wallpaper, and I used this wallpaper a little bit. I think I used it at the library as well, and I used the windows from Get Together. I tried to mostly use Discover University and Get Together in this pack, but I definitely have a lot of other stuff blended in, but I think those two have a similar vibe. And then I added a chimney and a little piece that matches from Enchanted by Nature on the roof, and then I said never mind. And then I added some leaves. I love these pale bushes, whatever they're called, the flowers. So I wanted to add, I wanted this to have like an overgrown look, which most of the buildings do. And I also ended up adding that onto the pergola, which you'll see soon. I believe I ended up getting rid of that green near the door and adding a different type of flower. And I added these pretty red ones above that little bump out that I had. And just added some more flowers on the roof. Then I went in with, I love those hanging flowers from Enchanted by Nature. I guess I used a lot from Enchanted by Nature as well. I used that trim on the pergola as well. And then I went in and I added this fence from Businesses and Hobbies, the ones with the little lights. I felt like that would kind of be cute to light up the area a bit more, and I wanted to just make this whole thing, really. I wanted to throw activities everywhere, so you'll see that's what I pretty much do with the whole thing. Right now I'm working on, the bar and inside of the bar a bit, and I added this archway, and I have this bar back in the back I just added in most of the builds, like the old antique wooden floors and stuff, because I wanted to make it, have that older feel to it. And I added a bathroom in the corner over there. I end up moving this bar, yeah, like that, onto the other wall. Even though they don't match, the wood tones don't match, I'm like, I just wanted there to be a bar back, and I didn't see one for Discover University unless I missed it. So I used the one from Get Together, and I made the Discover University a bit darker. And I added the sign also from Get Together outside that shows a little pub. Here I just decorated a little bit, and I added that foosball table for the Sims to have something to do. And I wanted it to be a mix of both schools, like both people from both schools could live here since it's just university housing. So I made sure to add like flags and posters from both of them. Again, just adding some little things around. I added a phone in the corner there. It just adds to the feel of like the older building. And I jump around a lot from upstairs to downstairs. I have that ping pong table or whatever it's called upstairs as well. And then I wanted to make kind of just like a little seating area. Here I am looking for that sign where from Get Together where you could see the tallies for, if you're playing a game. And I wanted to make this a little window seat, even though it's not going to be usable by the Sims. It just looks really cute. I started off with red and green, and then I kind of mixed up the colors a little bit. It was looking a little too Christmassy. And then I used the Discover University chair and couch set. And I was going to use a smaller TV, and then I was like, I'm just going to throw in a bigger one, and I put some game sets up there, and I added some TVs down near the bar as well, just like the smaller TVs, to just give it more of like that pub or bar feel, where Sims can watch sports and stuff as they drink, just like real life. And in the public bathrooms, I always like to add that like sanitizer soap thing and that towel thing. I think they're from Get to Work, I believe, or at least one of them, but it just makes it more realistic. And I ended up adding some more details with like pictures and some curtains and a lamp and some tables and everything. And I just wanted it to be really cozy up here. I'm just picturing it, being winter or fall, and reading a book up here, playing a game, talking to some friends. So I put like a mug in the corner, and I end up adding a board game, the one from Lovestruck, after I come back in and do that. I wanted there to be more activities, And here I am again, just adding some pillows to the couches, adding some more details. I tried to copy the rug with that blue and red color scheme. And then I added these bars that were red. The bar stools that were red, and a dartboard as well. I tried to leave enough space, to be able to play with the board and the foosball table and for your Sims to walk around. So I hope they're all accessible. I might test that before I put it on the gallery. And here I am, I'm just adding some lights around. I decided to delete the overhead lighting. I felt like it was a bit too harsh, so I wanted to just add a softer yellow glow around, just like it would be in a bar or pub type thing. So that's what I ended up doing. I believe I did that upstairs as well. And I added those mismatched rugs from Laundry Day. Thought that was kind of cute for downstairs. So for the outside, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do at first. I end up adding a fire pit that people can, sit around, and some of these juice keg things. And I got these chairs from Seasons in brown. And then I went to City Living, and I wanted to get that. I found a jukebox that I liked, so I added that in with some speakers, but I wanted to get that performer stage thing in the corner over there. It's like that little amp and stuff, so students can perform for others. And I end up adding this invisible dance floor as well. I do end up coming back and deleting this little picnic table I have here, and I added some game tables and card tables instead. I put this little heater out there too, so Sims won't get cold. I was gonna add like an archway in this space, and I ended up not. So I ended up just adding some greenery all around to make it a little more pretty. And I added the lights around too to just lighten it up a bit. I believe they're from Get Together as well. And then for the dining hall, I ended up changing the color of this, but I put the windows on it first. And again, I was indecisive about the wallpaper. I ended up I think I ended up sticking with this one from Castle Estate. I use that mostly, and the windows as well. I was kind of going for, maybe like an older church vibe that was turned into a dining hall or something. I don't know, I wanted it to be very like castle-y inside, and outside as well. And I really liked these windows. I really wanted to use the stained glass windows, and this is the only build I believe that I used the stained glass windows on. And I added a door in the back and in the front, and I believe I also end up changing the doors to Life and Death instead of Castle Estate, because I just like those better. And I struggled with this. I was trying to add like a glass piece to the roof, and I finally figured out how I wanted to do it so it didn't like show the roof through it. So I ended up going with this like 4-way kind of one, and I changed the roof to this orangey tone, which I liked much better. And I think that's from Life and Death as well, which is another great pack. And I just went ahead and added these pillars all around. I wanted this build to be a lot more detailed, and I went in with these little porch type things. I'm blanking on the name of them, and I added some flowers to them. Again, I just wanted to add more detail to it, so I wanted it to look like sort of a medieval building or castle that you would see, and I added these from Jungle Adventures, and I kind of just added them to each corner of the outer parts along with these red flowers. I end up adding this trim from Jungle Adventures as well, and I end up putting the flowers on top of those, and I liked that much better than just having them hang on top of the doors since they stick out a bit more. I played around with the color, but I ended up just going with the red. Again, just liked that better. And then I wanted to add some more greenery, like vines kind of going up throughout the building. I wanted to make it look like it's been there for a while and the vines were overgrown and everything. So for the inside, I ended up, as I said before, deleting the top floor. I just wanted the ceilings to be super tall. And I went in with this wallpaper from Life and Death as well. And I just added these chandeliers to the floor above, which made it kind of dark below. That's such a frustrating thing because I don't want chandeliers to be floating on the bottom floor, but when you just put them on the second floor above, it's just not enough light. So I went in with some sconces all around the place just to brighten that up a bit. Then I went in with the Discover University lunch stand, whatever that's called. And I also added some tables and stools from the same pack, Discover University. I end up changing the positions a bit after, and I was struggling a little on what to do with the bathroom. I ended up just adding one singular bathroom in this corner right here, and I kept it, looking the same with the same wallpaper. Similar toilet to the pub. I love that one from the Vampires game pack. Then in this corner, I added this little platform with that debate set, sort of like how I believe it was the Bridechester dining hall that had that. So I wanted to keep that similar. And in the center of these two rooms, I wanted to add some vending machines, and then I kind of blocked it off and made this like little archway, so it's kind of like covering those vending machines and you don't see them immediately like the sides because the colors don't really go, but I didn't want to make them just dark colors, So I added a few different options there, and then I added a rug in the center of this room. I ended up getting this really big one and moving the tables to go right on top of there and kind of match. And I wanted to add these curtains. I believe they're from Life and Death or Businesses and Hobbies. Businesses and Hobbies, maybe. So I just added them in red all around. I didn't really touch the top floor. I didn't end up adding curtains up there. I wanted to add a chess table and a bookshelf here as well, just in case anybody wanted to do some studying. And I added some portraits on the walls. I believe that's the Princess Cordelia one. Again, just throwing some decorations around, some plants, some lamps, anything that will kind of fill some space in. And these trash barrels, of course, so people can throw their stuff and they won't leave them everywhere. And again, I played around a little bit with that chess table, and then I was happy with that. And I wanted to add some columns. I was originally going to add like a little archway, but it wasn't working out, so I was like, forget it. I will keep it the way it is. And that was the inside of the dining hall, and then I moved on to the library. And for the library, once I added the roof, I ended up having to change the shape just a little. I just had to extend it a tiny bit forward. So I tried to add like a rounded roof to not have to do that, but it didn't work. So I just fixed that really quick and added this little doorway, like covered doorway, and I also made the roof glass. I thought that was kind of pretty. I used the same Castle Estate kit wallpaper with the moss kind of in between. Again, wanted to go for that older feel. I added some trim and I ended up changing the columns to more of a rounder one. I hate when these square ones kind of turn diagonal for the corners. It just drives me crazy, so I didn't want to do that. And then I went in with Life or Death windows, and I just kind of mixed, I think, no, I didn't mix them. I just kept Life and Death, and I put those everywhere except on the two walls that are across from each other because I wanted to make room for bookshelves and everything. And again, Life and Death wallpaper. I fixed the stairs outside a bit and then I put them in. I think sometimes that's easier to do than, you know, moving stuff around inside because sometimes the stairs drag other stuff. I also kind of flared out the bottom of the staircase a bit, and I added a bathroom in the back so your Sims don't have to leave the building if they have to go to the bathroom. I tried to add, you know, at least one bathroom in each building. Then I went in with these Discover University bookshelves and I kind of put a couple of them around on one side. And I made this little seating area on the other side, again with Life and Death couches, I believe. And then in this corner to the left, I wanted to add like a little library station, even though nobody's actually going to be working there. I always like to do that in the libraries. I don't like to add a seat or a computer, which, you know, that would normally be there because I don't want Sims to actually sit there. But I tried to just clutter it up a little, like somebody works there, maybe put a book down that they were reading, and of course added some curtains to the bathroom. And I just kept the bathrooms really simple. I'm not a fan of doing bathrooms. I feel those are like my least favorite rooms to do. Then I went outside and I added this little porch around the whole building. I wanted to put some easels out there. I didn't put much because it's not a lot of space, but I liked how, you know, in the museum they had those easels in all of the Sims museums, I believe. I know this isn't one, but I figured that's another activity they could do out here. I ended up adding an arts center, but for now, I also have some here as well. Again, just cluttering up the place a bit, and then I decided to go up. I added a door to be able to exit the back, and I added some lower or smaller bookshelves here. I ended up changing those to a different type than the ones I used downstairs because the one I used downstairs just were too tall. And I added 2 tables here, and one of them, I was originally going to just put one in the center with some computers, but I ended up putting that on the wall on one side and the other side just for studying and doing some homework. So you could either go on the computer or just write. I again added some more desks in the corners, and I put those other little record looking machines, I forget what they're called, from Discovery University, but they were in the libraries there. So I added another seating area that looks like the one downstairs, just again to make it kind of cozy. And I added some signs with some plants and another rug up here and another seating area. So there's plenty of room for Sims to come and study and just read books and stuff. And I added this little cart to the librarian station, which I always do because I think it's so cute. I think that's from Get to Work. And then I added these little book stacks from the Book Nook kit. I love that. And another chess table in the other corner, so made sure to fill that up a bit. Here I am, added those card tables under the pergola and lights all around this building just to brighten everything up and make sure you could see on the outside. Then I went to the two houses. So I struggled with the colors of like what I wanted to do for this. I think I cut out most of it and I ended up going with these colors from Discovery University. I think both of those are from Discovery University, the wallpapers. And I wanted to use those light colored wooden windows and I just couldn't make them work. So I ended up using the ones from Get Together. And they have more of that like old-timey feel. So I thought it worked. I did add a stained glass window just up at the top, and I changed the color again. So I didn't end up going with that. I went with this brick color and just trying to fix the windows here and trying to make them even because some of the heights were a little weird. They looked strange on the outside because the trim, so I ended up changing them to these square windows that had the same texture from Discovery University. And I made these little down basement little rooms that you could go into. And I was going to make them into apartments but I ended up, since we had like way too many apartments above, I ended up just making them into little places you could go, like a gym and an art studio. I made these pretty much identical. To get to the top floor, I added a ladder because I just could not fit stairs in that little space. But yeah, they're pretty much identical. Some of the furniture colors I end up changing a bit. For the living room downstairs, I kind of made a, little entryway and a living room that people could go to downstairs. No kitchen or anything, because for university houses, you can't add a stove or anything to the building. So they can go eat at the dining hall. In the rooms, I might add like a little mini fridge and microwave if I can, or just a mini fridge. Each room gets their own bathroom. They're just kind of small dorm looking rooms. And they each get a small, tiny bathroom. I actually have to play test these. I hope they work. I end up just adding that little shower to the wall. So I hope that fits. If not, I'll have to change it before I upload it to the gallery. And added these little mirrors with the sticky notes because I thought they were cute. And I just did the same exact bathroom over and over again. I might add some decorations to them to change them up a bit, but I don't know. I just wanted to keep them very simple, just a copy because there were so many and I didn't want to have to make each of them unique. So I was just going to put like the basics of what you need, like a bed, a desk, closet, mirror, in each room based on, just whatever was in the university kit. So I started to do that here a little bit, and I decided, I was like, you know what, I can make this into a second video where I can put all the different majors on a wheel and I can spin and decorate each room for that specific major. And I thought that would be fun, so I ended up not finishing the decorating, and I'm definitely going to do that for my next video or another video. And could just come back to it because I feel like that would be way more fun to decorate, like, an art student's room, or if they're into science, then I can get more detailed and it's a bit more fun. And for the living room, I really ended up just doing the same exact thing with a tiny bit of a different color scheme. One was more like blue toned, cream colored, and the other one was a little more like red. And again, just the Discovery University couches, added them both, changed the color. I added a TV with a fireplace, a lamp, some curtains, a bookshelf. Nothing too crazy, just, you know, if they come home, they want to sit, watch TV to get their fun up. I added a single bathroom down here without a shower. And I love these curtains. I think they're from the Storybook, what was it? Storybook nursery kit, I think. And then again, just like decorating by putting some pictures up with some lamps and some plants and everything. Then I went outside to do the landscape. I was playing around with this fence, and I decided not to put it over here. And I just decided to put hedges everywhere because I liked to have a specific, you know, railing fence for that little walkway bridge across the water. At first I was going to add these square ones, but I noticed the surrounding, that's something I like to do, is match the surrounding area with the landscape. So the surrounding area used these bushes, so I used a lot of these bushes to just like go around all of the buildings, and I think I really liked how that came out. Some of them I used ones with lights to light up, you know, the pathway and stuff, but not for all of them. Some I just used the basic colors, and I made these little side yards over here, and I put some more activities out, you know, for different sims and whatever classes they need. I was copying the flowers over there, so I just zoomed in and I saw they had those purple and white flowers, along with the little bushes with the blue flowers on them. And I just wanted to add some trees. Again, whatever I saw around, I mostly used. I did not see these around, but they looked so nice and clean cut, so I put those pretty much everywhere in between, like, you know, the dining hall too, to just fill up those spaces. And I added lights around so everyone would be able to see. I was going to match the one that was outside of the lot, but I ended up just keeping the little flower ones because I couldn't find the exact match. And I liked the black ones with the little flowers, so I kept that. I added a little pathway in the park with a fountain, and I ended up adding a little picnic blanket with a picnic basket, so Sims could have a little picnic outside. And then I added another chess table in the other corner. I was gonna add a swing set, but it was just not enough room. And then I forgot I had to add the mailboxes as well, so I got these from Businesses and Hobbies. And then I went back and did the chess table and added some benches around, just to make them have some seating, you know. Added some trash barrels everywhere so things wouldn't get too gross. I went in and added some more greenery around. I was trying to just fill in a lot of, you know, the spaces that I had, and just add some bushes and stuff around to make it a little more vibrant and pretty. And I changed the water to this leafy water. I really like that one and the mossy water for outside. Not for a pool, but for lakes and stuff. I just feel like they're really pretty. And obviously if water's outside, it's not going to be pristine. And I added this little wishing well as well, along with the little coffee cart. Just, you know, as they go to class, they can grab some coffee or a snack. Again, just adding some more bushes around to make it a little more lively. And added more of these green. I really like those tall green bushes. I feel like they just make everything so pretty. Also something a lot of people like to do, you know, go in and add some dirt under the grass. It just makes it look a little bit more realistic. So I did that everywhere, under some trees, under the bushes, around all the buildings a bit, and near the park. For one of the yards, I added these little gardening pots and this flower making station. I wanted each yard to have a different activity or type of activity. The next yard I put a telescope along with another little blanket to just, you know, for Sims to sit outside with. And I was searching for anything else that I could possibly add. And I added these little future cubes inside. And in one of the houses I added a piano. So if there's a music major, you know, they can live in that house. I also added some of these little hedges that you can shape outside near the pergola, and I added a little path to them along with the well. Then I added this fence that I was originally going to use at the entrance, and I didn't, but just in that little corner, just like it was like an old fence that's been there for a long time that they just didn't destroy. I felt like that was cute, and I added these businesses and hobbies fences with the lights on them as well. I was gonna add the fence around there as well, near the pergola. I think I left the one near the pergola, but not on the other side because it was kind of wobbly looking. And I went back to these two little sections and I made one of them a gym and one of them a crafting area. So this is going to be the gym. Again, it's open to everyone. I wanted to kind of make it look like, you know, those when you're in the city, Boston or New York or something, you know, you can go down to that bottom floor and it's like a little cafe or store or something. So I wanted to just give that feel to this, and I realized halfway through I was like, oh god, I wanted to add a gym and now I have nowhere to add it. So this was perfect and it ended up working out great. I always love to add these little TVs right above the treadmills, so your Sims can watch something as they run, even though I'm not sure if no, they can multitask. And I added these little gym posters around with some yoga mats, nothing too crazy, a vending machine. I decided not to add a shower in here. I feel like, you know, the houses are right above, so I didn't think it was necessary. And then on the other side, I decided, like I said, to add this kind of arts and crafts room. I ended up going with a whitish beige brick on the wall. I also thought of the idea to add like a little back room that was kind of hidden where students could get tattoos. Just again, another activity for them to do and to keep busy with, or to practice, you know, and up their skill for that. And so I added this little locked door in the corner over there and added some stuff from businesses and hobbies for Sims to get tattoos. And in the back, I decided to have a little pottery area, again from businesses and hobbies. And I wanted to add some chairs around that board so classes can also be held here, you know, any type of class. Sort of like a rec room type thing. So that I thought was a good idea, just in case you know, wanted to up your skill in something else and a sim decided to teach it, or you wanted to, you know, just something else to do. And I added some artwork around, nothing crazy, just a little bit. I was gonna add an easel in here and I ended up not. I ended up adding this little like green accent wall around, and again just add some more artwork. And yeah, I thought this came out really cute. I also added some bikes around, even though, you know, Sims can probably just get their own bikes. I just wanted to make it look very lived in. And I also added some swans and ducks and fireflies around. And this is where I added that little invisible dance floor. And that was my college town. As I said before, I'm definitely going to make a part 2 to decorate each of the dorm rooms. I want to create a wheel with all of the Sims degrees and spin, and, you know, whatever I land on, whether it be music or science or robotics, I'm going to decorate each sim room based off of that. I think that would be really fun, instead of just filling it up with a bunch of random stuff. And then you can actually play in it, and whatever major your sim is in, you can assign them to that room. Since there are only 10 rooms, not every major is going to be included, but that is what the wheel is for. If you're interested in seeing part 2 or more content like this, please subscribe, leave a comment, and like this video. Thanks for watching!